Okay, let's jump right in. Getting your car serviced right. It feels like something pretty much everyone with a car has to deal with.
Oh, absolutely. The routine stuff, oil changes, maybe a weird light comes on the dash, that's scheduled maintenance.
Exactly. You take it in,
Yeah.
you trust the garage, you pay the bill.
And you really hope they did everything they were supposed to do.
But, well, sometimes, unfortunately, that trust, it gets put to the test.
And that's really what our source material for this deep dive is about. It takes us behind the scenes at one of America's biggest nationwide car repair chains.
Yeah, looking at an undercover investigation that caught something, well, something pretty significant. Activity they claimed had never before been caught on tape.
Right. So that's our focus today. We're going to unpack this whole investigation. How did they pull it off? What exactly did they find?
And what happened afterwards? What was the fallout? Our mission here is really to give you a quick, clear look at what went down.
And just a heads up, the findings are, well, they're surprising and maybe pretty unsettling if you've ever left a shop wondering what you actually paid for.
The main allegation being customers charged for work that just wasn't done.
Precisely. Paying for services or repairs that, according to the investigation, simply didn't happen.
Okay, let's get into it. The company is Jiffy Lube, a name most people probably recognize.
For sure. America's biggest lube and tune chain. They say they serve, what, like 30 million customers a year? It's huge.
Massive scale. And the core claim here, reportedly backed up by insiders, is that customers are paying for work not done, and that it happens, quote, every day.
Wow. Every day.
Yeah.
That's a really serious claim, potentially affecting millions of people. So how did they even try to prove something like that?
Well, the investigation used a pretty clever method. They took 2 test cars and wired them up with hidden cameras.
In cameras, okay.
Mhm.
Not just on the dash, I assume.
No, apparently in really unexpected places. And they gathered footage over 3 months.
3 months of footage. But cameras alone don't prove a part wasn't changed, right? How did they verify the actual work?
See, that was the really smart part. Before taking the cars in anywhere, they marked specific parts.
Okay, marking the parts. That's the key.
Yep.
So you can physically check if the marked part is still there after the service.
Exactly. Undeniable proof, basically. So let's talk specifics. Case number 1, a fuel filter.
All right. Where did this happen?
They took one of the test cars to the Jiffy Lube in Encino, California.
Okay, Encino.
The service advisor there, identified as Leo, he recommended changing the fuel filter, added it to the oil change.
And the cost.
Total bill came to about $240. Oil change plus that fuel filter.
Seems standard enough. But the marking, what did they mark?
Right. Before going in, the investigator actually lowered the gas tank just enough to reach the original fuel filter
Okay,
and marked it with a big 4.
a big 4. Got it. So after they paid the $240 and drove away.
They checked. And guess what? The original filter, clear as day with that 4 marked on it, still in the car.
So they paid for a fuel filter change that just didn't happen.
Exactly. Caught red-handed, you could say, thanks to the mark and the cameras.
Wow. That's pretty damning evidence.
Yeah.
Did they test other types of services too?
They did. Another big one was a transmission flush. This was at the Canoga Park Jiffy Lube.
Okay, different location. What happened there?
The manager, identified as Anthony, recommended and charged for a top-of-the-line transmission flush.
The kind that uses a special machine, right?
Yeah, a machine called Tech. It's supposed to hook up directly to the transmission lines under the car, does a whole fluid replacement.
So it's a pretty involved process. You definitely see them hooking it up.
You would think so. But what did those hidden cameras, the ones under the car, capture?
Let me guess. Nothing.
Bingo! The footage apparently showed that nobody touched the Tech machine. Nobody touched the transmission lines underneath, not once during the whole service.
But they still charge for the full transmission flush.
Yep. Billed for it, paid for it, service not performed.
That's blatant. Was this just a one-off at Canoga Park, or?
Well, according to the report, this specific issue being charged for a transmission service that wasn't done, they saw it again.
Oh, really?
Where else?
At 3 other locations they tested: Glendale, Sherman Oaks, and Burbank.
So that's 4 locations just for the transmission service issue. That sounds like a pattern.
It certainly starts to look like one. So overall, across all the places they visited,
Yeah.
what was the final tally?
Out of the 9 Jiffy Lube locations they tested in the LA area,
9 total. Okay.
the investigation concluded that 5 of them stiffed them, that's their word, charged for services or repairs that the camera footage showed were just not done.
5 out of 9. Wow.
Yeah.
That's more than half. That's not just a couple of bad apples, is it?
It certainly raises questions, and there was another example even more recent they mentioned.
Oh, yeah?
This apparently happened just last month. They went back to that same Encino Jiffy Lube, the place with Leo and the fuel filter.
Back to the scene of the crime, so to speak. What did they test this time?
The oil filter, standard part of an oil change, right? Before they went in, they marked the old oil filter.
Okay, with what this time?
A happy face.
Yeah, a happy face.
All right.
So they go in, get charged for the oil change, which includes a new filter.
Correct. And the hidden camera footage this time, it was, well, pretty specific.
How so?
It showed a mechanic bringing over a brand new oil filter. He puts it down near the car.
Okay, looks like he's about to install it.
But then, nope. Moments later, the footage shows him picking that same new filter back up and taking it away. It never got installed.
Seriously? So they just pretended?
It seems that way, because after they paid and left, they checked. And the old filter, still marked with that happy face, was right there. Never changed.
Unbelievable. The camera footage, the marked parts.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue with that.
You'd think so. So the next logical step, confronting the employees caught on tape.
Right. What happened when they went back to Leo and Encino about the fuel filter?
Well, initially he denied it, said it didn't happen,
Good.
but then they showed him the video.
And his reaction was just, okay. He acknowledged it once he saw the tape, but when they asked why he didn't change it,
What did he say?
get this, I don't know, to be honest. That was his explanation. Then he rushed away, denying he was trying to make an easy buck.
I don't know. Not exactly reassuring.
Not at all. And then, crucially, they overheard him on the phone right after talking to his district manager.
Oh, what did he say?
He apparently said, well, they caught us on camera. They didn't change the fuel filter on a Jeep, basically admitting it again.
Wow. An admission, at least to his boss. What about Anthony, the manager at Canoga Park, the one with the transmission flush?
When they confronted him, he just clammed up, referred them straight to his district manager, said he couldn't comment.
Passing the buck. So they tried to talk to the district manager then, this Stephen Obb.
They did. And his reaction was, well, it was something else.
How so?
When the investigator approached him and identified him as the district manager, Stephen Obb, he flat out denied it.
Denied being the district manager. Yep.
Said his name was Alex, claimed he was just a customer, pointed to a red Camaro parked nearby and said it was his.
Okay, that's weird. Was it his car?
Nope. Turns out that Camaro belonged to a completely different customer who was there. He was just making it up.
So he lied about his name and claimed someone else's car? Why?
Presumably to avoid answering questions about the investigation. And Jiffy Lube later confirmed it via email.
Yes, that was District Manager Stephen Obb, and yes, he was lying about his identity.
Lying about who you are to dodge questions. That looks really bad. It really makes you wonder why. Why would employees, even managers, allegedly be doing this?
Exactly, and that's where the insider perspective they got is so important.
Right, they spoke to someone who used to work there.
Yeah, a former insider who claimed the problem comes from up top. Specifically pointing fingers at management pressure, including from people like District Manager Stephen Obb.
Pressure to do what?
Pressure to meet internal sales targets. They called them budgets or quotas.
Quotas. For car repairs.
Yeah. The insider specifically mentioned a target. Management was pushing hard for employees to sell an average of at least $66 worth of services per car.
$66 per car, every single car that comes through. That sounds ambitious.
Very. And what happens if they don't hit that number consistently?
According to the insider, your job's on the line. Miss the target too often, and they'd look for someone else who could hit it.
Wow. So intense pressure.
Yeah, the insider basically said the only way to consistently make that quota was just to sell.
Yes.
As many services as possible to every customer.
Okay, so there's this huge pressure to upsell. How does the insider connect that pressure back to the work not being done, like the fuel filters and flushes?
Well, the connection, according to the insider, is time. Because employees are under so much pressure to sell such a high volume of services for each car. They claimed employees don't have time to perform each and every single service that they sell.
So they sell it to meet the quota, but then cut corners on actually doing the work because they're rushed.
That's the picture the insider painted. That the pressure to sell basically overrides the ability, or maybe the incentive, to actually deliver all the services sold. Systemic pressure leading to fraud, potentially.
That's a really powerful explanation. It shifts it from just, individual bad actors to maybe a problematic system.
It does. But there was one more detail from the insider about training that was, frankly, quite disturbing.
Oh, what was that?
The insider alleged that part of the employee training wasn't actually about how to do the services correctly or honestly.
What was it about then?
It was reportedly about how to spot an undercover customer from Channel 4 News.
You're kidding. Training on how to avoid getting caught.
That's what was alleged. How to spot the investigators, essentially how to avoid getting caught doing it instead of just being told, don't do these things.
Training on evasion instead of integrity.
Wow.
As a customer, that's incredibly frustrating to hear.
Absolutely. So with all this evidence piled up, the cameras, the marked parts, the insider claims, what did Jiffy Lube say officially?
Well, they wouldn't talk on camera about it. Declined requests for an interview.
Okay, but they issued statements.
Yeah.
Took any action.
They did provide statements. Their initial ones said they took the allegations very seriously, they were investigating fully, and they promised appropriate actions to stop it from happening again. They also said they'd give refunds for any work found not to have been done.
Standard corporate response, maybe. But did they announce any concrete steps? Anything aggressive?
Yes. After the investigation aired, they announced some pretty significant actions.
Like what?
They said they were temporarily closing 5 LA area stores. That included the Sherman Oaks one and 4 others mentioned in the report.
Closing them? Why?
For retraining. They said all employees in those locations would be retrained.
Okay, retraining. Anything else?
They also announced plans to install video cameras in the service bays of 31 LA area stores. The idea being customers could potentially watch the work being done. More transparency.
Cameras in the bays.
Yeah.
Interesting. What about the specific people caught on tape? Leo, Anthony.
Action was taken there too. Jiffy Lube confirmed they fired 6 employees who were caught on camera. That included Leo from Encino.
Good. And the district manager, Stephen Ohm, the one who lied about his name.
Fired. They confirmed they terminated district manager Stephen Obb as well.
Firing the district manager. That does seem to align with the insider saying the pressure came from up top, doesn't it?
It certainly seems to acknowledge a management issue. But here's the kicker. This isn't exactly the first time Jiffy Lube has faced these kinds of accusations, is it?
No, and that's really important context. According to the news report, this is actually the 3rd time since 2003.
The 3rd time?
The 3rd time since 2003 that Jiffy Lube has told this same news channel that it was cleaning up its act after similar undercover investigations found problems.
So they've made these promises before?
Apparently so. They even showed a clip from just 3 years prior after another investigation where a Jiffy Lube spokesperson looked at the findings and said, quote, "This is wrong and it needs addressed."
History repeating itself, perhaps? How did actual customers react to this latest investigation?
Well, as you'd expect, people were concerned. The report included reactions from customers like Dory Rudin, who used the Canoga Park location.
What did she say?
After watching the report, she basically said it made her wonder immediately if she'd paid for services on her car that weren't actually done. It plants that seed of doubt,
Absolutely. And did she think these new steps, the firings, the retraining, the cameras were enough? Would she trust them again?
Her answer really highlighted the challenge they face. She said, that's difficult to say. I'm really not sure. It just shows how hard it is to win back trust once it's broken like this.
Especially when, as the report pointed out, Jiffy Lube still wouldn't go on camera to talk about the investigation or these new steps they're taking.
Right. They stuck to written statements. And the investigators said they were going to keep trying to get that on-camera interview.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, our listener, this deep dive looked at an undercover investigation that used hidden cameras and marked parts.
And it found multiple instances across several locations of a major car service chain where customers were allegedly charged for things like fuel filters and transmission flushes.
That just weren't actually performed.
Right. And we explored the potential why behind it, connecting it to insider claims about intense management pressure to hit sales quotas, maybe even $66 per car.
Pressure so intense it might lead to cutting corners on the actual work. And even disturbing claims about training focused on avoiding detection, not doing the job right.
Then we saw the company's response. Firings, including a district manager, closing stores for retraining, adding cameras, but also noting this isn't the first time they've promised to fix things after being caught.
So this deep dive gave us some really specific examples and a look at the possible systemic forces that might be at play behind that service counter.
It really did. And it leaves us and you with a pretty important thought to chew on next time you need car service. If sales quotas can create this kind of pressure and potentially lead to these outcomes, how can you as a customer ever feel truly confident you're getting exactly what you pay for?
And maybe what does this whole situation tell us about the risks of how companies incentivize service work?
Definitely something to think about.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for going on this deep dive with us today.